The central theme of the Christian faith is the fatherhood of God. That's the central theme. And one day you will discover from your own experience that you are God the Father. And there is no power in the world that can persuade you that you are until a son. And because he is Father, there must be a Son, and it is his Son who stands before you and calls you Father. Here in Scripture, you are told, if the Son sets you free, you are free indeed. And people wonder, what on earth is that all about? If the Son sets you free, you are free indeed. A demented king stands and he looks at the head of the enemy of Israel and he wonders, who is the father of the man who brought that head here? The king's name is Saul, and he's insane. And he asked his lieutenant, Abner, whose son is that youth? And Abner said, as your soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. He said, inquire whose son the stripling is. No one knows. So the stripling, the young lad, comes holding the head of the giant in his hand. And the king said to him, whose son are you, young man? And he said, I am the son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite. Because the king had sworn to set the father, not the son, to set the father of the man who destroyed the enemy of Israel. And he destroyed the enemy of Israel. He would not put on the garment of the king. He took it off. He only carried 5 stones with him. There weren't 5 stones. This is all beautiful imagery. 5 is simply grace. The number 5 is grace. And grace is God's gift of himself to man. So he took only the grace of God, the gift of God. And grace is equated with power of God. For my grace is sufficient unto thee, for my power is made perfect in weakness. So you are the little weak one. You go forward. And you have my grace, you have my power. Not 5 little stones as told in the story. Here is God's gift of himself to man. So he stands before him, and the king does not understand who is standing before him. He is suffering from amnesia. The king is everyone in this world. He doesn't recognize his own son. Paul's first name was Saul. And Saul was converted into Paul. When he was Saul, he went out to destroy the entire story as he heard it. And then he heard a voice saying, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And then he answered, who are you, Lord? I am he whom thou persecutest. I am the Lord. And then he changed his name from Saul to Paul. The whole vast world is Saul. He looks into the face of his own son and he cannot recognize it because he's actually suffering from amnesia. Then comes a complete return of memory. And he remembers he's promised to set the father free of the man who destroys the enemy of Israel. And so memory returns, and he is the father and he is set free. For no one can set me free but the Son that I have forgotten. So my Son returned, and all of a sudden I am set free. This is the story of Scripture. The day will come you will actually see him. He will be one who will stand before you. You will recognize him. You will know him to be your Son. And knowing your Scripture, that he is the Son, the only Son of God, and then he is your Son, then you know who you are. You are God himself, limited for a little while in a garment of flesh and blood, to tell the story to encourage others who are still in the demented state of Saul. Now, to go back to the story, if she could hear that which was not true, and then it becomes true, why limit it to the world of Caesar, of getting rid of a neighbor? Why limit it to dollars and cents of making a fortune? Why not take it into the promise and have someone within your own self say, I have experienced the promise. I have actually experienced the resurrection and the birth from above and the discovery of David and the ascension of myself into heaven and the descent of the dove. But then listen as though you actually heard it. If you can't do it that way, well then take a friend and hear a friend say to you, I heard that you, and then let that friend's voice be the voice you're hearing. And you are reveling in what the friend is saying concerning what you have experienced. And have the two agree. And if the two agree in testimony, then it is conclusive. So do not limit it to the world of Caesar. So, when she called today at 10 this morning, my heart went out to her because she was quite disturbed. Frightfully disturbed, because she thought, what have I done? For she would not kill, well, a butterfly. That's the kind of a lady that she is. She wouldn't hurt anyone. She wanted money, and she has money. She really wanted that beyond all things, but she has it now. She got it, and for the rest of her earthly days, that's done. It's all in trust, and she has it. Now, I would ask her to go outside of that now. If she could only become hungry for it, as she was hungry for money.